Okay, good afternoon. Welcome everyone to the Concurrent Session 3-2, Transforming Pedagogies of Empowerment. My name is Cristian Bravo. I'm the Regional Coordinator of Education for Sustainable Development and Global Citizenship Education for Latin American and the Caribbean of UNESCO Santiago. I'm here to present this very interesting panel. We're going to hear now how you can put together innovative teaching and learning methods and resources that educators can use to design and implement lessons to integrate GCED, particularly towards critical empowerment and transformative learning. So I wanted to give the floor to my first speaker. So I'm going to introduce to Jongpin Chen, who is the Senior Manager of Arts Education from Malaysia. Chen Jongpin has been actively producing, coordinating, and facilitating arts, culture, and heritage education programs based on the community-based learning methodology for over 19 years. Most recently, as Senior Manager of Arts Education, she has led the organization expansion to training local school teachers to conduct community-based learning, as well as developing an online resource portal to increase access to CBL-related materials. Together with the Arts Education Trainer team, she has also worked with APCU in training teachers and educators in infusing GCED elements using CBL methodology. She has also managed and conducted cultural mapping projects in various urban and rural settings, specializing in stakeholder management. So, Mr. Chen, the floor is yours. Thank you very much.
Hi. We're at the last sessions of today. Yopin from Malaysia. Just would like to give a little bit about context. Malaysia is a multicultural kind of a state. I'm the Chinese Malaysia, but we actually also have Muslim Malay, all the different types of religions and all that. So to give this context is to let you see how we are given a very good platform to learn about multicultural and diversity. But we are still not yet understand who are the people stay next to us. So I think that's where I want to begin my sharing today is, yes, we're given such a good platform, yet we are not taking this opportunity to actively learn about it. But there are many initiatives that we are doing. So these are some initiatives that I would like to share that we try as an NGO, to work as an NGO, and also NGO to support the school and the school teacher. Is it this one? Oh, yeah, I would like to focus on 4 content today, the issues, the approach that we've been using to work with schools and school teachers on community-based learning short-term course CBL. And we'd like to show you 2 examples. One is the school-led, where ArtsEd, the organizations that I work with, work together with the school, and school-led NPO, non-profit organization that work with schools. And some findings and reflections that we actually got by working with schools and school teachers. Some of the current issues that I think we share a lot with other countries, I think especially in this particular Malaysia context, our students actually score very, very low in terms of global competency. When we say global competency, we might be in a platform, like I said, a multicultural diversity, but the interest to actually want to learn about others high, but the respect that we actually have for others is very low. Yeah, I mean, it's like quite weird, right? Why? You have a lot of interest, but you actually score very low. And the cognitive adaptability, we're actually very good in talking, giving all sort of factors and, what could we do here? But in action, we might not be equal to what we actually say. So we have a lot of young people who are able to say a lot about what we should do, but what I can do and already done is not very clear. Yeah. So this is also because we see that there's a lot of disconnection with the community. A lot of the discourse is actually talking inside the schools and not in the action base. And also in Malaysia context, a lot of the lacking in the intercultural kind of interactions. Schools are divided by its language and its vernacular. So Chinese primary school for 6 years will be predominantly only linked and interact with Chinese-based language group. And they hardly actually interact with other group if it's not intervene in a special program. So yeah, like I say, we might be looking at a very diverse group, but we actually, the students, learners are not given opportunity to have in-depth, proper interactions with the group from other culture. And schools teachers are actually having a lot of lack of accessibility to a lot of materials that they could actually use. I would like to share this quote that I always share when I actually share with a lot of people. GCED is really not about just talking and discussion. It's really about life experience. And we should take what we discuss and also take it on the ground, try and error. It's okay if we fail, but let's try it. That's how we actually can experiment. And what I'm trying to say this here is, it's so important to rehearse, to do it in the local setting before we talk about big things to change the world. We have a lot of children talking about changing the world, but not doing anything. We want them to rehearse, to try to do something with the family, with the school, or even just opposite the school. Because we have so many kids, they can talk about doing a lot of work, changing the world, but they actually don't know who are the neighbors that stay just opposite their school. So I think we want to actually encourage this kind of connection. You can see that the responsible citizens, it has to be interconnected to the world. It's not just about self, and it's also about self to country, to the planet, to the school. But how? So we engage to actually say that it should be a platform for rehearsing citizenship, combining the effort from all the people. NGO play a role, teachers play a role, community play a role. So none of us should be missing in this whole effort and movement. And how? So we take classroom learning to practice, to go into the community and in the context. And by rehearsing, you actually have the skills and thought about what will it happen in the global world. But how? So our community-based learning is the approach that we're actually pushing to work with schools. Experiential, student-centered, and in an applied learning setting and making connection. So one of the processes that we actually encourage is they should understand, experience, analyze, and act at the same time. So it's not a by process, but you can actually use these different processes to encourage the practicing of GCED. So the first one, I will very quickly, because I think it's already 11 minutes. Case study number one, as an NGO, we work with this school called Penang Chinese Girl Private High School for the length since 2017. What we actually do is the teacher chose the school area, about 1 to 2 km radius from the school, as their community site. Why? Because it's economical. No need to take bus. Just walk out from the school. You can interact with your community. So this is one of the sample projects. So they chose a traditional trade, which is a soy sauce trade. And they actually look into what is the responsible food production from a traditional trade. And they also look at how to sustain a traditional trade at the same time looking at the modern world, how to actually sell your products. So the teachers actually take under our training, and then we coach them together in this 4 months project, but it's not every day. Through a 4 months project, they let the kids to actually investigate and observe and interview the community, as you can see, research, and they actually have to make a lot of infographic, and you can see that the posters and all, and present it back to the community. The community actually very touched and also inspired by them, and they took the students' idea back to their work. The innovation of the new sauce, taste, and also the way of selling your trades. So they start to make packaging nicer. They get a better designer to actually design their product. So you can see that the relationship here is not just one way, it's actually different way, yeah? Yeah, two ways. So since then, the teachers are motivated, and she went on to do so many projects from 2017 to 2023. Small but simple project. She did project in canteen, she did that rice consumption and food security during the COVID time, and currently she's actually doing mapping the cultural assets of the school neighborhood and looking at the bigger issues about the traffic issues that currently they are fighting against building the flyover in front of the schools. Who get empowered? You just see the school. 2017, owning outing. And then later on, they go into subject. And later, the teachers become the mentor teachers to other teachers. And now they actually started to develop 3 years curriculum program for the social science. I would say it starts from one single teacher, but now Miss Chin Chin is the lead teacher for the whole school and the mentor teacher for the whole school. And the principal said, now I know what is CBL. Can I actually work with IConGCED as an NGO after so many years to push it to the whole school? And it become a whole school approach. I would say it might not be a lot of effort, but the continuous engagement is where it's very important. Second one, very quickly, on IConGCED-led, but a lot of schools actually invited to join. And we purposely invited a lot of schools to mix because it's very low chance for the school to actually mix in Malaysia. So through program, for example, in a local market, we actually have waste management in a local market. But through the arts, we don't actually tell and only do statistics and all, but we through the arts, working with illustrator, to look into investigating how traditionally waste management is being handled, which might not be bad, yeah? It might be a positive. And we'll look at why now everybody talking about 3, 5, 7 R or 9 Rs now, but actually we already have a very good way of waste management. So this is again, the process of just now the understand, act, you know, the 4 components. So the students are being actually introduced to the local market, seeing how the market practices and research the sustainable and not sustainable way. And they found that actually our market vendors already have a very good way traditionally to save a lot of the waste and actually become new type of food instead of going into the bin. So they, using illustration to document it and present it back to the vendor who might not actually know the other vendor, the way they practice. So, I mean, I would like to reckon the other presenters say just now, arts open up dialogue. Arts open up more conversations that they might not know, but actually, after the project, students are actually sharing their findings. They are actually taking action to share certain practices. So they also make connection from the self to community, and also visit landfill of what waste management situation in their own state, and looking at connecting global issues. So this is where we're making connection to them, not throwing them to a global issues, but coming from themselves, from the self to then to the global issues. And throughout the many years, we explore many GCED topics in the local market, and it's a very vibrant site to actually do. And we have a lot of like different creative tools used to go into different focus area: people, occupations, and product. And you can see students are learning happily with the community. And these are some of the products that actually show their finding. And they perform their findings and share it with the public and the market community. And this is one that for our NGO takes students' finding to another level, where we actually engage young artists to look into the waste management and improve it in the market. And students also give back to the community by opening dialogue, designing a lot of the work, and also suggest more economic way to do. One of the things that the children learn is, I learn to mix with friends from different cultures and community. ironically, we are in a diverse group, but we actually don't get the chance. So because of this, Yap and Nazrin now still friends together, although they are not from the same school. And this project actually, throughout this 8 years, we actually have 17 projects ongoing. And we found that this actually have a better and improved waste management because of the constant engagement with the community. Although the student might not be the constant one, but the constant visit with the community actually contribute to talking about the issues. And we now have a lot of product design, such as board game and all, to promote local market. So some of the insights from practicing CBL, I just want to share with everybody, whether it's a school-led or MPO-led. We found that a lot of the young people actually able to connect to the larger society when they actually go into a local entity, a local issues, and they grow organically. They are not just looking at textbooks. They are not just closing at the four walls in the school. And they expose to diversity automatically, yeah? You have to actually say so many different languages and different people, different occupation. And relationship building is really happening, yeah? And it's aligned to a lot of the goals that the school actually wanted. A lot of the schools are now in Malaysia finding their brand so that, they need to actually show what they are special in. And we actually hit that for some of the school. They actually want to see real change to the students. And the multimodal approach also allow the school teachers to use different way that they are more happy with. And lastly, some of the impact we can see that if we work collaboratively with multiple stakeholders, is where we can actually, and continuously, we can see impact. And the students are really getting a sense of belonging because it's actually market is very near them. They see it as a place where they actually can go and to communicate. Some of the challenges very quickly to see that I think it's time. Collaborating with different teachers in the schools is still a big challenge. And need to look at how we can actually learn not in just sitting in a classroom, but a bigger space. And I think I will skip that. I just want to say that the interconnectedness in learning is so very important. It's not really just sitting in the classroom. And for this, I will end my slide, and thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Chen. We're going to have to keep the question for the final round because we ran out of time. So for the sake of time, I'm going to continue with our next panelist. I invite all of you to put on and turn on your devices because this presentation is going to be given in Korean. So I'm going to introduce you to Mrs. Huang. She is an elementary teacher, a school teacher, interested in GCED and had been applying it to her classroom since 2015. As a homeroom teacher who teaches all subjects, mainly teach 6th grade elementary school students and establish a year-round curriculum focusing on human rights, environmental issues, conflicts, and peace, and apply it every year. As a teacher belonging to Jeongi-do, she has been working as a Jeongi-do Global Citizenship Education lead and teacher for 4 years. In order to spread GCED, she has been continually contributing to development of GCED by collaborating with various related organizations, not only developing GCED textbooks, but also giving lectures to teachers and participating in researches and teaching and learning methods. So, Ms. Huang, the floor is yours. Thank you so much.
네, 안녕하세요. 방금 소개받은
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. As introduced, I am Hwang Ji-min. It's a great pleasure to meet you all. I'm a homeroom teacher at Suwon Kumho Elementary School. And I've actually scanned the list of participants, and I can see that I was the only teacher that's actually teaching in schools. So today, as a public elementary school teacher, I would like to go into sharing some of the considerations and some of the concerns and challenges in engaging in GCED in the school. And of course, I would like to share with you a couple of examples. As mentioned, I am a public teacher, but I'm also a civil servant of the Republic of Korea. So what I do is not only teach, but there's a lot of administrative work. And as for homeroom teachers, we actually have to teach 13 subjects. It's not just a single subject that we teach. So even if I do have a great affection for GCED, in terms of how this can be realized in the curriculum, you need to put in a lot of good thought into it. From 2015, it's been 9 years since I've been conducting global citizenship education based on an annual curriculum, and I particularly focus on UN anniversaries. So when I do conduct classes based on these UN anniversaries, it's very good to motivate the students. And in addition to that, the students can actually memorize and recall these impactful events in their everyday life. And in addition to UN anniversaries, we have war, we have climate change challenges and issues. There are many global issues we witness. And if that particular issue has a close relevance with our everyday life of the students, we actually invite that topic to have it be experienced in the classroom. So, what kind of tools do I use in my education? Well, I do know that we have many participants, APCU and NGOs and institutions that have immense resources and materials, and I actually take full advantage of the materials by these organizations. And because we are a school, we have textbooks. There are related subject chapters, and of course, if it is relevant to GSET, I would, of course, utilize the content. And in addition to that, I would, of course, identify some key sites where we can actually pay a visit to if it has any relevance. And the Korean Ministry of Education actually provides various digital devices to elementary school students. From grades 3 to 6, all of the individual students have their own personal device. The schools actually distribute these digital devices, whether it be laptops or pads. We have that placed in the classroom so that the students can use. So you can see that there are an array of options that I can utilize in my education. So how to learn? Well, of course, it would be very much boring if a teacher would actually provide a one-sided type of lecture. So we utilize games, infographics, debates, reading books are also involved in the process. And there are also many things that you can do at home. So I would actually provide them with tasks or challenges so that even outside the classroom and outside the schools, they can have that identity as a global citizen to perform and, and uphold their responsibility. But as for public school students, public school teachers, another critical element is about when I can teach GSED. When I conduct training for teachers and educators, they would ask, how can you squeeze the time to actually conduct GSED education? There's so many topics or so many subjects to cover in a week. How can you actually squeeze in the time? So for Korea, there is not a designated slot for GSET. So they ask, when can you actually find the time? So when do I do this? Well, if you look at Korean literature or social studies or specific subjects, there are actually topics that have a close linkage to GSET. So I would actually analyze that and try to actually converge the classes. For instance, if it's about reading and comprehension, there are specific texts that they would have to read. And if it has to do with, let's say, environmental pollution, well, that has something related to GSET. And in social studies, for instance, there's a class with regard to the ecosystem. So what I would do is actually put together a converged type of class to have the areas covered within a specific set time frame. So by making sure to really be creative in how you run your classes, I can actually find the time to teach GSED. And in Korea, there's what we call creative experience activities, which we call CEA. And this is when students will go out with the teachers to volunteer, would look into various career options, engage in club activities, or there is a free topic where the teacher would have the discretion to actually talk about with their students. So what I would do is utilize the time for CEA and subjects to actually squeeze in time for GSED. And lunchtime and mornings before starting the class is also some good time where we can actually have students practice global citizenship. And even outside the school, I really hope that they do become and live as global citizens. So the homework that I do give is one, having them keep a journal, which I call GCED diary writing. So for students that actually so-called enroll in my program, they have to keep a journal. For that week, they would jot down what they have learned on global citizenship, their feedback, and they have to submit that in class. And the second homework is to have them become a GCED teacher to their family members. So what I want to do here is not only have them learn, but also have them put this into practice. So they would have to explain and teach and educate their family members so they can really remember the key concepts. And in addition to that, the family members can understand what's being told and what's being taught. And of course, some compliments for the teacher as well in the process, which is an add-on. And we also I also try to give the opportunity for them to utilize their social media. There's a student that has a YouTube channel, and I've actually didn't encourage the person to do so, but what this student would do is when it comes to fair trade or food security issues that she has learned during my GCED classes, she actually puts together a video, puts it up on her YouTube channel, and she would show me what she's done, so they can actually become an influencer. So I intentionally provide these tasks and homework so that they can actually be a global citizen in real life, even outside the school. So I've already mentioned about some of the key things that I do. So I would like to just share with you a couple of examples with pictures. But before I do that, I just want to talk about a project, a very long project, which was a 10-class project on climate change. And I've mentioned that when I teach is important. So it was for Korean, for ethics, social studies, and I've actually been able to put together 10 periods in order to conduct this program. So we analyze infographics to understand the concept, and sometimes you can see here there are newspapers, and this is a game on carbon footprint. So I would actually utilize this so that the students would understand the carbon that's being emitted in their everyday life. And on the left, you see a number board where they can actually stamp to see the carbon footprint, and they would cut out the pieces on the newspaper to see how the area is gone missing by using, well, or emitting more carbon. And there's also reading classes where we would actually select a book on Greta Thunberg, where we would read out the entire book, and we'll also utilize YouTube videos and utilize Google Earth to understand her route, where she has visited. So we'd actually engage in a VR tour.
공부하기도 했었습니다.
So it was an immersive learning that we provided to the students, and also I provide articles, and I also guide students to create their own articles, and I also use budget to make our own bamboo toothbrushes, and also I also buy some good trading cocoa and as materials, and use those to help students learn about GCED and also the concept behind it. And I also give them as presents so that they can carry them home and then share that with their other family members. And these are some of the examples. So they take them home and then take photos and then send them to me. And on Food Day, the Global Food Day, I give them an opportunity to explore the concept of food security. And as an alternative to protein, I also buy some mealworm so that they can cook cookies with their families. Actually, when it comes to adults, they're afraid of touching the mealworms, but then that's not the case with the children. So that's why I provided them with these so that they can actually try them out at home. Now, this is at lunchtime. This is a grade 6 student, and she actually invited some of her juniors to come to the classroom and gave them lectures. And it was not what I told her to do. It was a voluntary work, and she wanted to actually give a lecture to her juniors herself. And if you look at the bottom, now that was a role playing. And there was also GCED goods making and sharing in library. And that was done during the morning session time. And we also make sure that we have books related to GSET in the library. As you can see on the slide, I'm not the one who picked the books. I used the Korean language class to help students pick their own books, and they will make sure that these books are in the library. Now, last but not least, I would like to move on to why do you do GSET? I gave you my own examples of how I conduct GSET in my school, and I have been doing this for 9 years, and nobody pushed me to do this. It was my voluntary decision to do GSET education, and this is the answer that I got. I talked about how I tell my students to keep a diary, and these are some of the quotes that actually resonated with me or were quite impressive. If you read the red letters, they talk about the unfairness, how the world is unfair, and it really empowers them to think about the concept of unfairness in the world. And I do not pressure them or push them to learn these ideas, but I could see that they learned this on their own. So it was a self driven learning. And out of the diaries for GSET, this actually resonated with me, so I would like to read this out. I am a Korean, but now I am a citizen of the world, so people living in other countries are all my friends. So this is what one of my students wrote. And this is why I provide GSET education in school. So when it comes to students, before they experience GSET, well, they would not be the same person. So they have to go through GSET education to become a better person, and they can never go back to the previous version of themselves. And when they see something around the world, then they will actually pay attention, and they will become more sensitive to the environment as well. And it's about giving them the identity or self of the sense of identity, and I believe that that is my calling, and it is my duty to help them become aware of GSET. With that, I would like to wrap up. Thank you very much for your time.
Much, Mrs. Wong. It was really beautiful to hear experience for a teacher. It was so refreshing actually in the seminar. So I want to give the floor to any one of you who would like to ask something to her, to clarify something about her presentation. We have some time, I think, to do this question. So if anyone would like you to ask a question. Yes. Do we have anyone? Yes, we do. Go ahead, please.
Yes, thank you very much, the moderator, for the opportunity. It is a coincidence when I come in that I met the proponent of the place-based learning. Her work is really helpful because after attending a global workshop on GSED, I was one of the selected mentees. And it happens I implemented a project capacity building teacher training. And part of the topic, I discovered that place-based learning is a very important area. I incorporated it as part of my training to teachers. To my surprise, after the training, one of the participants that completed the training implemented a project related to place-based learning. A very beautiful project. If not because of time, I will have shared the report of that project with you. Later, I will meet the proponent of the place-based learning to share the project. For the second presenter, even though I cannot pronounce her name, but she is the kind of teacher that the world needs. Honestly speaking, she is courageous and she has that willing. It's from within. It's part of her. So honestly speaking, this is the kind of teachers that the world need. This is all I can say. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was rather a comment than a question. I don't know if you want to react to that beautiful comment, actually. Okay, so We're going to move then to the next presenter, and then we're going to open the floor to, yes, we have another one? Yes, do we have time for another one? Yes? Okay. See, really? Yeah, sure, we have. Go ahead, please.
Thank you. I'm really interested in your project because with this kind of plan that you gave us, you did not forget that memorizing is also essential in the development of a child's mind. So cognitive abilities have to be focused upon as well, along with all this project, and the outside real world is only significant only when you also provide them something to learn in the classroom. So I would like to know how much of a proportion do you have, like giving data, facts about, for example, carbon emission, and then actually making them, see that and experience that, and finally, not be a part of that. So how would you, talk about that proportion that you have in your lesson plans? Thank you.
Thank you very much for the question. When it comes to carbon footprint, well, first and foremost, I have the data from NGOs, and then I process the data because I'm not an expert in that field. So I do not know exactly how we can contribute to the carbon footprint. So that is why I rely on the NGO data. So I take their data and then I gamify the data and edit the data for my students. And for instance, like 5 ml orange juice, let's say that I drink 1 glass of orange juice, and then that is one action. And then the child would click that, and then it will flip, the card will flip, and will show the student the carbon footprint. So that is how I relate their everyday activities to carbon footprint. So I relate the carbon footprint to the everyday action. And then out of the 10 classes, I only provide them for 2 weeks. And I believe that the 2 courses are enough. So, and 1 course takes about 40 minutes.
So we're moving forward with the panel. Now I'm going to give the floor to Mr. Plantilla. Mr. Jefferson Plantilla is a researcher on the Asia Pacific Human Rights Information Center, HURATS Osaka. He works on the Regional Asia Pacific Program, HURATS Osaka, which is mainly on human rights education. He researches on human rights education programs and activity in the Asia Pacifics, organizes international projects on developing teaching and learning materials, and publishes reports and books on human rights and human rights education. He edits human rights education in Asia Pacific's annual publication, and edited training materials as well in business, human rights, and Northeast Asia, a facilitator's training manual, human rights lessons plans for Southeast Asian schools, human rights education in the Northeast Asian school systems, resource materials, South Asian teachers and human rights education, a training resource material. He attends as a resource person various human rights workshops and conferences being organized by institutions in other countries in Asia, including those of subsidies in the late 19th. So, Mr. Plantilla, the floor is yours.
안녕하세요 to everyone. I'm going to basically present questions rather than simply talk about experiences. So let me start. I think Ms. Wang was talking about digital media, but I just want to look at it back by looking at these points. First, the social media provides us the capacity to express ourselves online. But it also provides online platforms such as, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, etc. But we also witness abuse of freedom to express ideas and opinions in the form of online bashing, unfettered, unreasonable criticism, harassment, etc. We also see a rise of hate speech online. And we have the exposure of private activities to the gaze of the world, the whole world, voluntarily and by deceit or deliberate act of others, which can be aimed at shaming the person exposed. There's also so much more online. Misinformation, accidental spread of inaccurate information, and disinformation, information dissemination not only inaccurate, but intends to deceive and is spread in order to do serious harm. So there's so much that the other side of the social media would be like this. As you can see here, there's news about it. Cyberbullying is on the rise. In the case of Korea also. You have in Japan, sessions are being held in the classroom in order to fight online bullying. In Mongolia, they're trying to combat this hate speech in online media. And you can see in the US also the same. You have so much of these problems coming up, and they're not even reporting all of it. So what is the message of this context? There is greater disregard of privacy and respect for people. That's one. Another, we are redefining empowerment. Communication is empowerment. We need to learn again the wisdom of communicating in order to be understood and not to attack other people. The current exercise of power to express ourselves is beyond the proper exercise of rights. On the other hand, more than ever, there is much more greater awareness of issues, as Ms. Wang has been mentioning, among the people, among the young people, because of the online information. That's the positive side of it. Okay, so in relation to GCED, considering the current context of empowered individuals, let me emphasize empowered individuals, rigid political views, and the persistence of all discriminatory ideas that maintain the problems that GCED wants to address, making empowerment and transformative learning a reality is a serious challenge. Oops. Okay. Oops. Okay. So questions again. The negative reality of abuse of power, seen especially in the online media, should be considered in programs for empowerment and transformative learning. How should power be exercised? Must freedom be enjoyed at the expense of others, and even at the expense of relationships among people in society? In this case, should we relearn, reteach empowerment? Should not transformative learning be based on the realities that people, especially young people, have already transformed beyond what the school has been teaching? They are already empowered before entering the classroom. Okay, as the context, let me go to some issues. Some projects that would illustrate maybe critical empowerment, transformative learning. And these are not new, but I want to say that what needs to be stressed is the development of empathy towards others, especially those who are disadvantaged or marginalized. And I have three examples. One is Jordan Model Parliament, the Twinning Program, and also the Machisukuri Committee. Okay, I'll explain each one soon. The Jordan Model Parliament, JMP, inspires Jordanian students to learn more about their country, lifting the lead on real experiences of citizens, their aspirations, their challenges, and how the modern world will impact their future. So as you can see, they do this. Ooh. This, and this. So the the JMP, there are debates conducted primarily in Arabic, and they provide an opportunity for the students to express themselves in their own language in an otherwise English-speaking school. And the participation of Syrian refugee students has also added another very powerful dimension to the discussions, giving often overlooked community a voice. The impact on the pupils has been considerable. They have opportunity to exercise their leadership, management skills, show their creativity, and sensitivity when tackling problems, and gain an outlook on national and global issues, helping them become more informed citizens in the future. Okay, the twinning program. I will be very quick about this. It's a twinning between a public school and a private school. And the public school where the mainly poor students come from, and the private school where mainly middle-class students come from. So what is important here is the process, or first, okay, the objectives, to sensitize the students to one another and to their environment, to modify certain perceptions that children may have about one another and about other groups or people in their environment, and then to provide equity-oriented perspective. Okay, so what is important here is the process. There's an orientation session to provide the children an understanding of the program. Oh, you want, okay, somebody wants to take a picture. Okay, and then there is the interaction session where the children would meet and participate in several activities. And friendship bonds are also created in this process. There's the post-interaction sessions to make the children participate in the thinking process where they also question their previously held stereotypes and prejudices. And then finally, feedback sessions to provide children an opportunity to evaluate the program and to make suggestions for furthering, developing it further. Now, it was observed that the private school children's opinion initially is that the slum dwellers create more garbage. This misconception had to be clarified through examples. So, examples are you produce more of these Tetra Paks, Pepsi, aluminum sheets, and so on. But then they found out that the private school children also were doing the same. The other one is in terms of behavior of the private school children, they were initially, the public school children were initially shy and reserved, but after the games, they opened up and interacted well. And this problem did not arise in the second interaction as the twins knew each other. Okay. And they realized that they were friendly to each other and then communicative and not snobbish as they had expected from the private school. Okay, they also felt that they should meet each other. Okay, so that's after the interaction. They have some other impact. Okay. Now, the training program is an extracurricular activity that breaks down prejudice among students who belong to different groups. So this is a very deliberate, conscious effort to bring two types of students together. Personal interaction among students, conscious of their different class identities, creates a powerful educational experience. All right, let me skip that and we'll go to another one. And this one is in Japan. There is a town that has an ordinance saying the rights of citizens under the age of 20 years to participate in machi sukuri. Machi sukuri is like district enhancement or town redevelopment. The town council gives the right to participation in suitable machi sukuri projects to minors and children under 20 years of age. Because of this ordinance, they have a committee that would allow the students to come in order for them to participate in the work of the committees, talk about the town issues, and also provide proposals, and then also help realize those proposals. Now, what is the reaction from the government side, the staff? Those children who took part in the Machi Sukuri Committee acted by themselves in self-driven manner and enjoyed different experiences, thanks to the activities that demonstrated their expertise as children. They're appreciated as children. It looked like our town is becoming a better town. Another response. In addition, by engaging in public relations, the sight of children increased the awareness of the town folks on child rights. Their hard work on Machi Sukuri Committee has become a stimulus to the adults and the general public and local government officials. So this is our photos of what they were doing some similar to the community-based learning, interaction with the youngest mayor in Japan at that time. All right. So the participation of children in societal change in the form of urban redevelopment has brought into light the views of children on what the town should be. It made an impact on adults, which is important in the case of Japan because there is a negative perception about child rights in Japan. So this is one way of showing that child rights actually help the town, help the people, help the society. But it also brought much learning to the children who can look back at their experience when they become adults in charge of administering the town. So we're looking at the future when they become the adults. Okay. Now, I would like to look at this at the last part about question of disempowerment. Do we need disempowerment? Empowerment is gained outside the school, as I mentioned earlier. Social structures give sections of society certain power or privileges which they can exercise over other sections of society. In a school that teaches equality, the diverse social and other statuses of students present a serious challenge. Let me talk to you about the case of Kartik. Kartik is a teacher in a school where equality is supposed to be taught, but the students are coming from a society with diverse identities. Now, Kartik is trying to respond to an ethnically diverse classroom. His classes are more interactive than that of other teachers. His students are more attentive in his classes and try to participate in the discussions. Very good. Kartik teaching experience provides a concrete example of realities inside the classroom that show students already empowered by their backgrounds. I come with my status. And the challenge of facilitating the empowerment of students anchored on equality and non-discrimination. These are not together. They are against each other. Kartik believes that the students are conscious and proud of their caste and community-based identity, and so in order to bond with them and seek conformity, he finds solution within this contour. So he plays around with these ethnic diversities of the students. He tries to give them importance. But through his practice, Kartik himself is contributing to the casteist culture prevailing in the school. So the diversity is also a separation among people in society. So the researcher said, for change through education, not just the curriculum, but the whole school culture would require an overhaul. So that is one lesson from this. But let me go then to an example of a whole school culture. Let me look at one case in Japan. I'm talking about the Burakumin. The Burakumin is a Japanese social minority group, ethnically and linguistically indistinguishable from other Japanese people. They face discrimination in Japan because of an association with work once considered impure, such as butchering animals or tanning leather. In particular, they often have trouble finding marriage partners or employment. They don't want to marry them, these people called Burakumin in Japan. So there's a school program called Dowa Education, which is meant to eliminate discrimination against them, the Burakumin. So now I'm going to present to you very quickly an example in Takagawa in Western Japan. Takagawa Junior Senior Secondary School. Now in this school, the transmission of knowledge of Buraku issues, discrimination issues, is strong. Materials covered in and out of class clearly demonstrate this. The students in Takagawa are socialized to be aware of Buraku issues and to take a very proactive stance in combating discrimination. Finally, in approaching Buraku issues as it did, Takagawa Junior Secondary School clearly legitimized open discussion and confronted Buraku discrimination directly. So there is a cocoon. In this school, you're free to express yourself. The students are empowered to assert their identity inside the classroom and with the discussion of discrimination, very open. And then that is supported by school activities, including a student club, including the teachers and school officials, including the whole school environment. They are given information about anti-discrimination in Japan. This cocoon created a whole school culture, provides security for the Buraku students in revealing their identity and valuing it in their relationship with non-Buraku students, teachers, and school officials. That is what the school wanted. Value your identity. Be strong, assert. The problem is outside the school, outside the cocoon, in a different world, asserting Buraku identity can be a challenge. When the environment is no longer supportive, and this has implications for GCED. When in GCED we try to empower students, what happens when they leave the school, outside into the community? Will the community also provide them with a supportive environment? So questions again for the CD. How can empowerment and transformative learning be effectively taught in schools located in societies whose diversity causes inequality? What kind of empowerment and transformative learning is needed in such situation? Oh, sorry. Kamsahamnida. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jeff. As you will notice, we run out of time as well, so we are opening now the floor for the general question or your comments. So if you want to take this time to actually address some questions to Mrs. Chen and Jeff as well, who have no time after the presentation, this is the time. So please, whatever comment or question you have, this is the moment to do so. Or else I'm going to use my privilege as moderator, so please go ahead. Let's ensure that you're taking the best of this last session today. Okay, there's someone here in the front.
Firstly, thanks for the information. In the subcontinent, including the India, Pakistan, and the Bangladesh, there's a caste system. Even in Hinduism, that is the Kashtri, Brahman, and even in Pakistan, we also separated the peoples on the basis of their regime, their caste, and similar case in the Bangladeshis. So another division is the socio background. What's your suggestion to tackle the children with different social, economic background? How we can merge people with rich background with the people with the poor background?
Well, first about the caste system and other social structures that put people in different levels or sections. It's a very, very tough question because you are going against a very strongly rooted practice and perspective or mindset that says no one can be really equal to each other. So what I just showed you is a way, an attempt at addressing that issue at the school level. And the one that in Japan is something similar. But I also try to challenge GCED in saying that we also have to look at the outside the school situation where students can no longer be supported by the teachers and by the schools. However, I still value the work that has to be done in school. I think this is also what you were saying, that will later on transform into action outside the school. But this cannot be done only by the school. This is a societal problem that has to be tackled along with society. And I think that is where the community comes in. That the community, the role of the community is very important in having this collaboration with the school in order to address this issue. The one about the poverty thing is a little bit easier in a sense. And the one that I showed you about the twinning program is an example where meeting each other is a very important step. Because our misconception, our bias, our prejudice is precisely rooted into non-interaction with the others. So I think that is just showing that we can break it down, that this gap between them can be reached by having this personal interaction in an environment where they are treated equally, at least as far as the economic differences are concerned.
Thank you so much, Jeff. Do we have another question? Yes, over here, the lady.
From Miss Yoki Pinchen, what are the key components of a successful community-based learning approach, and what advice can you give to beginning teachers who will use CBL in their classroom? For Miss Wang Jimin, what pedagogy or tools do you think is best in teaching or integrating GCED? And for Mr. Jeff Plantilla, in the face of too much struggles of youth through different sources, can you provide us the 3 most important strategies for empowering youth to drive sustainable change? Thank you, speakers.
Thank you so much. So we have a question for each of the presenters. So we will start with Ms. Chen. Go ahead.
First of all, I wouldn't say there's a same standard of what is a successful CBL. I would say for the past 20 years that work with teachers, there's no any single one is the same. I think we need to look at the context of the school, the teachers, and also who are the community that they work with. I would say the triangle that I put out, if the groups are working together, I think that's the start to go into a more successful, I mean, inverted comma, because I think culture, dialogue is constant and continue. I think if there's the existence of this group together and everybody to want to work together, I think that's the start of the successful and finding ways to work together. And just now you say some advice or tips. I think do it small and don't see it as all the burden go to the teacher. There are many people out there that we can work together. For example, NGO that Ms. Huang just now said, yeah, we can actually work together. There are also other people that work together, and it shouldn't be just on your own shoulder. There will be other people that work together for the students. So I think that's very core. I think that's why we want to be the support for the teachers. I would say in the very beginning, we only run workshops for teachers. And after 3 days, we say, oh, teachers, you are empowered to go back and do your own project. And we realize, no. There's so much more support that the teachers need. So we turn it into a mentorship program where we say, hey, teacher, we are here. Call us after first month, second month, or 3 months. And it's not enough. So now we are actually the friend or collaborator with the school. And we go into the school and talk to the principal. And I think there's this continuous engagement, and it leads to the whole school approach. And then this school now is influencing other schools, how they could do it. Also, from a teacher to a whole school. So I think start small and work with others will be the advice. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the insight. And now, Mrs. Wang, do you like to share your reply?
네, 질문 감사합니다.
Thank you very much for the question.
Yes, thank you. Out of the many pedagogy methods and techniques and tools, the most effective was the question, and there are actually 4. So first, as I've introduced, the GCED journal keeping or GCED diary keeping. For 9 years, this is something that I have been continuously pursuing every year. And interestingly enough, it's been very much effective for the students because for the teachers, they would read the journal, the diary to really understand their understanding of the concept, so we can confirm that. And also the students, that they do keep the journals, they can actually review what they were taught, what they've learned, and to see whether they can actually have been putting this into practice, so they can recollect on their actions. And the second, I want to say that if they're learning on a tight schedule for students, any tool would be fine if you can keep them busy. So as an example, I utilize digital tools, and if you use digital tools, you can see that all of the 5 senses of the students are very busy. They're very busy at looking at something, seeing something, pressing, touching, listening, so they can actually communicate. They can, whether it be metaverse, whether it be Google spreadsheets, that's something that I also use. So this also can come in handy. And third, because we're dealing with elementary school students, gamification is also key. There could be difficult concepts that needs to be taught. This is something that has to be taught by the teachers. But the teachers, whether it be some creative games or whether it be from existing online games or board games, you can actually harness their understanding on concept, which actually made the teaching much more effective. And last but not least, this actually enabled the students to actually unleash their potential. I think that this is really important pedagogy. For instance, the students themselves, they can actually run a campaign. It could be special lectures that they would actually teach others. And then also to their family members, becoming a GCED teacher can actually have a great impact on themselves and their self-confidence. And I say that you should take a picture after you teach your family members. And one is also on actually seeking response and feedback from their parents on the lecture by their child. So for instance, the parents would say that that was amazing and that they were able to learn something that they did not know from their child. So based on this feedback that they get, they understand that they had impact, they had influence. So utilizing these methodologies, I found it very much effective. Thank you.
Muchísimas gracias por esa respuesta y compartir. I switched to Spanish, so sorry. I was so drawn by the very relevant information she was sharing, though. So I switched my language, so sorry. It was so relevant to hear your experience, to hear what your recommendation, actually to put the student in the center in the work with their family. So I found it really, really interesting. So over to you, Jeff.
Okay, I mean, in response to the question, what are the 3 important strategies to drive the youth for change? I'm not going to give you the best answer, but I'll try to give you some answers. 3 points include listening, participation, inclusion. In terms of listening, I think we need to let the young people, the youth, express themselves. Many years ago in the Philippines, there was this parent educators students forum, and they allowed these young people, the students, to speak out. What happened was that parents and the teachers were surprised to know what the students knew. They didn't understand that students were so knowledgeable about many things, that they can understand many of the things that we're talking about, but only because at that forum that they were able to understand because they spoke up. So I think the lesson there, therefore, is that have we listened enough to these young people to be able for them to say that this is what the problem is and this is what we can do? So it's very important to have that kind of listening strategy. The participation strategy refers to having a mechanism for them to participate. That Machisikuri committee is an example. And this we're talking about elementary school children. But we're talking of youth who have much more capacity and energy to do something. But there must be a mechanism where they can participate in and really join. That is respectful of their knowledge and their skill, and really providing them the support to do what they can do within that mechanism. And the third point about inclusion is that my observation is some of these projects that we are talking about here tend to be projects of middle class students, if not richer students. I tend to see less of the poor students. So I would like to have a kind of dialogue between the poor youth and the richer middle class youth, so that they can share with each other the things, like the twinning program. Because I think we should not be segmenting. We should not be dividing the youth. When youth is youth, but youth are also in different situations. So I think that is a very important thing. That must be a deliberate effort. Because in my, when I talk about GCED, I always talk about the marginalized, the disadvantaged. So exactly the same. For the youth, let's look at the marginalized and the disadvantaged. They are very, very important part of the youth. And they should be part of all these things that we're talking about. Thank you.
Totally agree, Jeff. Thank you so much. So we have 5 minutes to another question. Any one of you would like to question something else, to comment some of your experiences as well? Yes, we see a hand raised over there. Yes.
Well, I teach at a university where we have all kinds of students coming from different tribal areas or different cultures, different religions. So for me, the twinning concept is a little difficult to understand, because sometimes, as we live in a world of Foucault, power politics does play a role in the lives of these students also. I'm talking about young teenagers who come with their own personalities and ideologies. And sometimes I also talk to my class about intellectual bullying and about bullying in other contexts also. So as a teacher, I'm always concerned of how I could keep that balance between this twinning concept also. Because then I need to know their culture also, and I need to be somebody who's actually able to, understand all, and then, keep them in a kind of an equilibrium where everything is balanced. So I personally find it to be a very difficult task. And since I've been teaching since like 22 years, so it's for me a little normal now. But for young teachers, facing so much of diversity, I think it's difficult. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I don't know, Jeff, if you want to react to the comment that the teacher has said.
I agree. I agree, it's very difficult, especially when they're growing older. But it is something that we also need to think about, because that is precisely what are supposed to be happening in society. We're talking about, working together. We're talking about being together as part of GCED work, towards a certain goal. The problem is, I think we have not institutionalized that kind of system of of setting a ground where everyone would be safe to talk, despite the economic, ethnic, or other differences in their society. I know it's difficult, I know. But I would rather try and find out how we can improve on it. I think experience will tell us the next move after that. So thank you. But I understand you. Sorry.
Go ahead, Ms. Kat.
I just want to respond to this is when we actually have our programs, all the students, whether they are coming from one school or they are mixed school, we make sure that it's actually a smart team building. So we don't go by who are you, we go by we need to complete this task. And you go out to the community and we go to be able to complete this task. Can you put up a list of things that we need as a team? So then they start to look at different things because in school or in university, it's very specific kind of skill set that you require. Maybe it's text and verbal. But when you go to community, the skill set and the knowledge that you need to have is more. Whether the language that you need to speak or you're able to communicate or even that you see. So we can see that students from different background and different skill set, whether they are academically good or not good, being able to excel in this. And we can see that they actually can show the talent, their capability and ability when they have to complete the task. So just for one example, so there's one apprenticeship need to be done with a fishmonger. So the group from 4 school mixed, and the fishmonger speaks Tamil, is an Indian Muslim. But the group has to actually do it any language that they want. But the worker is actually from Indonesia, so they have to speak Bahasa, Malay. So the team's like, oh, what should we have? So we need to have someone who is able to translate. We need to have someone who is able to be apprentice for one day to understand fish. So they actually could find someone who actually not very good in academic, but not very good talker, but can do things very well. So I think how that this work together, appreciating and knowing what others can do, is where we can actually combine the knowledge and in the university or in the school. When we bring them to the community, we are practicing as a member of the community. We are no longer, a student that, but we embrace who we are and we actually put forth the language that I speak, the ability that I can within the group. So I think we make it very equal that everybody set the goal and everybody solve the problem together. I think that's where we find it's very powerful when we actually run for the past 20 years. It's really working with kids when they just come to this setting. So they see together and share. Yeah, so I think some of the things that we would like to share. Yeah.
Thank you so much. So unfortunately, we're running out of time. I don't know if we have 1 minute or if we are, I'm looking to our colleagues here in the organization just to know if we have any kind of time. We have time? Oh, I see. Okay, so go ahead with the question over here, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Melandra Santos from the Philippines. I have an experience in teaching on the poorest among the poor in the Philippines. It is located in Tondo, Manila. So my students belong to the poorest among the poor, and they're living in Smoky Mountain. And one experience is that it's very hard to teach GCED among the marginalized sector of the society because they experience social injustice and they are living inside the area of garbage. So my question is, given the chance to have GCED project again to the marginalized sector of the society, what do you think would be a better approach, a strategy, or a key point in teaching GCED teams for these kids? Thank you.
Okay, so as a motion in order, I would like to give you a minute for each of you to reply to that question. I will start by Jeff. So go ahead, Jeff, please.
I had the chance to speak about the garbage, and I was said that garbage is a big business. The problem is the profit do not go to the poor, to the garbage picker, but to the company and others that are, along the line benefit. So what I'm saying, therefore, is that I think we have to look at the garbage as the starting point of GCED project. Garbage is not something that is simply to be thrown away. It's a resource that can be used for good, for the society, for the benefit of people, economically and others. So I think we have to start there where they are and then create the project from there. Consider their livelihood as important, an important part of society, an important part of the economy, so that they can see that they are actually important members of the society, and therefore they should be able to assert something in that sense. But we need to give that importance. We need to show that they are important, though they are poor. But precisely that is solving poverty by giving the opportunity for economic upliftment. So, thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Mrs. Huang?
네,
Yes. As you asked your question, it got me thinking. Well, in Korea, we also talk about the vibe of a specific neighborhood. And since I teach in a public elementary school, depending on the neighborhood, well, as you add, sometimes the students are wealthy, they're well maintained, whereas for other neighborhoods, they're neglected and they are from the isolated groups or alienated populations. But then we have to go beyond that, and we have to think about the universal values. And what are the values that we need to aspire to and we need to work towards to? And I believe that is the end goal of GCED. For instance, SDGs will be a key pillar that drives that. So regardless of my background or my economic or academic background, then this is something that we pursue all together. I may be poor, but that does not mean that I should be left out. So I do believe that with GCED, we need to provide training or education to everybody. We need to teach them the universal values to everyone and make sure that they become aware of the damage they cause to the planet and the damage that they cause to others, and also my own rights that I need to pursue and what I need to do with others. And I believe that that is what GCED can offer. So regardless of the neighborhoods that you live in, I think that we can all provide this for everybody and leave no one behind.
Really briefly, please, so we need to really close the panel.
It's not easy. I didn't share this. It's actually we're working with marginalized community children. We put so much focus using the creative arts, to build their confidence, self-esteem, and all, for a 1 full year last year. And this year we decided it's not the way. We actually think they are too focused into their own community, but they don't get the chance to look at others. So we changed the whole way, go out, but not too out, but only in the neighborhood with 3 more schools. So we are now testing it to look at, not just looking at themselves, how they feel about it, how they think about it, but now we actually want them to communicate with other people, to understand and putting the respect. Because I think marginalized group kids, I think we realize that we are putting too much effort on them to actually talk about the same topic. And you need to be, be confident and all, but actually they need more platform to rehearse who they are, communicate who they are, and also understanding others. So we now enlarge the platform to let them communicate with others and do projects together with others through the arts with the community. So I think that particular project is another type where we don't directly work with school, but then we now changing that the school to support us in the community-based project. So I think go out from your own groups. Ms. Huang, I agree that you shouldn't just look at it within your group, but it's actually a larger humanities kind of together. Yep.
Okay, thank you so much. And we're going to wrap up the panel now, so I will ask you to give a round of applause to our excellent panel for their valuable contribution. And thank you so much to you for being an excellent audience as well. Thank you so much.